What's up guys, my name is Cherno. Welcome back to another Cherno live stream. We are back at it again with the renderer, 2nd of July. Today, we did kind of want to have this done in June, but it's July. Welcome to life. So we are getting some pretty good progress done, I think. Like, we are at the point now where we can kind of begin to actually go through render passes properly. So basically what we've done, probably be better just to show the working result. If we just boot up Hazel real quick, then basically what we've done is the renderer 2D is now capable of rendering, what's going on? Oh, yeah. So we're getting this weird issue sometimes where we basically have like a, VK device lost or whatever. Sometimes. So I really have to investigate that. We could probably hook up Aftermath to this and see what the problem is. It happens randomly, well, somewhat randomly on startup. So if I start it up again, we probably won't get it. I mean, in that case, it didn't actually happen immediately, because you saw that it still brought up that dialog box. So anyway, that's something we have to sort out. But if I show bounding boxes, then, we can select entities and see bounding boxes. If I just deselect selected entity, then you can see them all at once. And there you go. Like, there's a scene in terms of bounding boxes. There's still some weirdness with the mouse, and I had to change some things. Like, the mouse doesn't get locked when you right mouse click, so you can still kind of go off here, which is wrong. I don't know why that happens though. Yeah, it's a bit weird. I feel like that didn't used to happen, so I'll need to investigate that as well. But in terms of the rendering, which is what we're trying to focus on, then you can see that we're getting somewhere in the sense that we're actually, like, our 2D line renderer is now working, which is pretty exciting. Now, the reason why this is a big deal, it looks like a bunch of lines and it's like, who cares? But the reason why it's a big deal is because it's not just rendering lines at the, like, extremely primitive level, right? Like, we're actually going through, like, the way that renderer 2D works, which is the class that is doing that rendering, is it's actually going through and for the case of the lines here, it's creating like a proper render pass for it from a shader. And it's setting inputs such as this uniform buffer set, so a set of uniform buffers. So all of that stuff is working now. We're actually getting the camera into the shader, and I think everything is kind of okay. There's still some weirdness, which, we could go a couple of directions here. I think I actually want to go down this direction. The obvious thing to do next is probably to get all of the renderer 2D working. So that includes quads. And text, and that's important because text obviously uses textures. It shouldn't really be that much more work, but not only does it use textures, I think the text pass itself actually, so it's disabled over here, but it actually has to go through and set materials. So this will be great because this will be, doing the text pass is going to be a way for us to actually set, materials and make sure that materials work as well as just render passes. So render passes can have inputs which apply to the context of the entire render pass. So for example, the camera uniform buffer, but then individual draws essentially can also have, these materials. So we go through, we set up all the materials, and then in this case, we do one draw, and it's only one draw in the render pass, but it's kind of all batched together as long as we have less than 32 font atlases. So that'll be a good next step. But as an intermediate step, what I want to do is I want to launch RenderDoc, and I want to figure out why our viewport is sort of undefined. That might be also why we're getting a device lost error. So I think we just got one. Yeah, the device removed, which just means device lost. I don't know about device removed. I don't know why it says device removed. Like, who's logging that? That might be NVIDI. I want to see where that's coming from. Yeah, it is. So device removed is what they use. Yeah, I guess that's okay. In Vulkan, we call it a device lost, and that's a bit, I'm a little bit more familiar with that. Whereas in DirectX, it's called a device removed. So I guess we'll stick with device removed. Doesn't really matter too much. Anyway, yeah, it happened again. It's happening quite often now, and we can debug that with Aftermath. We can actually get a dump from the GPU that's like, why did this happen? But basically what that means is something went terribly wrong and it crashed. The GPU kind of driver crashed or whatever. So that's that. Oh, did it happen again on resize or whatever? Yeah, I wonder if that's to do with... what I'm about to show you, which is this. So our main viewport image that we render shows up as undefined here. Now it works fine in the app, right? Like in Hazelnut, it works fine. However, it doesn't show up correctly here. And we had a very similar issue with basically everything. So all the fonts, I think, and also the images and like all of this stuff down here also showed up like that. And that was because we effectively had like the wrong layout. Now the thing is though, we're not getting any Vulkan validation errors here at the moment. We're actually, sorry, we're getting one. And it's over here. And I'm not sure why specifically this one is coming up. Maybe because it's an error and not a warning or something. I'm not really sure. Maybe we should figure out what prints that. I expect it'll be like the device manager. So we are definitely enabling validation. I wonder if we're just not printing it or something. It's a bit weird. Because what we can do is we can actually launch the Vulkan configurator and then we will get stuff printing. So it seems to be a matter of like either the way we're printing it or something. I don't know. Also, minimum Vulkan version is set to 1.3, which might be a little high. I think we should probably go with 1.2 as a minimum requirement for Hazel. And we're on 1.4 now. But I don't want to require everyone to be on 1.4 or 1.3, I think. It depends what we use though. Anyway, so the whole debug situation, right? Install debug callback, and we do Vulkan debug callback, if manager, ignored. So there's a bunch of apparently ignored Vulkan validation message notifications. So I wonder if we're ever ignoring messages. Let's quickly launch this and see if it's hitting that. I mean, it doesn't seem like it. So why are we just not getting messages then? We're only getting that single one up here. The reason why I'm confused is because if we launch the Vulkan configurator, nah, that's probably the wrong one. I've got a few Vulkan SDK things here. So here's 1.4. So if we have a look at 1.4, then we can go to bin, and then there'll be that Vulkan configurator. So let's just make sure we're doing the right one. Okay, so this is what if you keep this open and then you run, then I believe we're gonna get a bunch of messages injected basically. And you can see we are, right? So these are messages that we, for some reason, are not getting. And you can see they're actually validation errors. So I'm very surprised that we're not getting them from our app. I need to really investigate that, I think. But it could help us with... I mean, this will create compute pipelines, create graphics pipelines, which is probably an issue as well. So there's issues with descriptors. I wonder if there's any, like, there doesn't seem any draw issues though. This is all kind of compute pipeline, create graphics pipelines. So our pipelines are a bit weird. Here's qsubmit, that's a bit weird. Update buffer is a bit weird. Why are we not getting any of these though? It's so strange. So we're trying to update a buffer at the data size. It's a uniform buffer and the data size is actually 0. So that's weird. Anyway, none of these seem to be like layout issues though, strangely. It's just like a, yeah. push constants aren't set up correctly. I think if there are multiple across shader stages, because that needs to be ported to NVIDI probably. Oh yeah, compute shaders I think just don't. Compute pipelines we need to revisit for sure. And then these are descriptors, set 1 binding 10, which is not marked with that. Okay, yeah, sure. Oh, a text-based Pokemon battle sim. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, you can send it in. That'll be fun. I feel like I'd review that. Dark Roman. Okay, anyway, regardless of this though, let's try and get this undefined situation sorted out. So it basically just means that most likely we're creating our image in the wrong layout, or at least it's not in the right layout when it comes time to render. So we discovered this halfway through, but I think we kind of fixed it by, and it really shouldn't happen with frame buffers, but we fixed it by just making sure, I think, that we set our, actually this flows through image anyway. So I think it just needs to, where's image? Just needs to make sure, I think, that the initial state here, yeah, is set to true maybe as a shader resource. So I wonder if we need to do that for if it's an attachment. So else, let me just try this. So else if it's an attachment, let's set the initial state to basically be like, what's the resource state here? I guess render target is what it would be. So if we just try this, and I'll make sure that we hit that, I wonder if that will just work. So as far as I really should have written this down as like a bit of documentation or something, but I'm pretty sure that, yeah, we are hitting that. I'm pretty sure that what this means is that basically you're setting the state to render target and you want it to always be in that state unless you obviously need to like set data or do whatever else. So it's like it's going to return to that state, I think, automatically, and it's going to track the changes to it. So command list that use texture will automatically begin tracking the texture from initial state and transition it to the initial state on command list close. Exactly. So if we do something to it and then we close the command list, so we're done with it, then it will transition it back to like what it's supposed to be so that we can pop back to render target and use it as that by default, basically. So we don't have to manually transition it to something else and then make sure we put it back in time. Like it will just kind of take care of it because we're saying that the default state should be render target. And like for a texture, for example, even if we might want to upload data to it from the CPU, we still want it to ultimately be a shader resource. So let's see if this works. So it runs, and then let me check through RenderDoc if that solves the undefined situation. Which again, is just really weird to me still. I wonder if I'll ever know why, but it's just weird that this stuff shows up undefined in RenderDoc, which is helpful, admittedly. However, nothing... it doesn't complain about it in the validation layer at all. Usually if you mess up your, like, you know, image layouts, it will tell you that it's in the wrong layout or something. So why it's not saying that, but RenderDoc is like, oh, it's undefined. Like, that's super weird. But again, it makes sense that it's undefined. It makes sense that it's wrong. It's just that yeah, there we go. So see, now it's not undefined anymore in RenderDoc. So it's just weird. So I'm glad we fixed that, I guess. But it's just really weird that, oh, I've still got pink as a clear color for this. It's just really weird that it's, so here it is. There's the scene composite thing. And now that's legit. But yeah, it's just really weird that it's not. So now actually, we should be able to do this. It's weird that it's not coming up in Vulkan's validation. Wonder if we will ever know why. Okay, so if I enable bounding boxes, oh, did we crash again? Okay, well, yeah, now we know it's not because of that we're getting the device removed. But again, you know, you can't like, you know, we have a bunch of validation errors that are unrelated to that. So I'm not surprised that we're getting a driver crash or a device crash, but let's try and power through it so I can test this. No, it crashed again. It's crashing a lot more often. Yeah, there's no problems detected. The RenderDoc is like, nah, you're good. But why not? Wonder if we should do standard preset for the validation. I guess let's work on fixing the validation and then we'll go back to RenderDoc because we can barely run this thing. All right, so let's go. I guess I'll pull this out. It's just, the thing is, if we had this normally running within our app, which I really maybe should investigate why that's the case. Maybe it's a different version or something. But if we had this running within our app, the benefit would be that we could just put a breakpoint in and it would just tell us exactly where it's happening. I mean, it's not the biggest deal because for what we're about to check out, can I close this folder? For what we're about to check out, you know, like it's fine. But I guess we'll wrap it. But I still, like, as in, it's fine in the sense that, like, you know, I can obviously look at this and be like, okay. And there is some, well, no, this was just scene renderer net. There's no, I don't know where exactly it's coming from, but I know that, for example, for renderer 2D, that for that shader or for text or for line probably as well, maybe not. Yeah, so we can see, for example, that there's supposed to be some, it uses a descriptor that's that, but it's not declared in the pipeline layout. So like I can tell like what this is and it's easy to fix, but for some of them, it'd probably be good to actually have them be, you know, have them be happening within Hazel so that I could just put a breakpoint in and then see the call stack of where it happens. Okay, anyway. So if we have a look at like this one, let's have a look. Should we start with the first one? Not really. Let's start with this one because this is like specifically for renderer 2D. So, and this is important to us. So basically it uses a descriptor, set 0 binding 0 of type sampled image, but expected combined image sampler. Interesting. So I think we changed this to specifically be this. So if we have a look at renderer 2D, because remember we're trying to avoid combined image samplers because they're not compatible, but see this isn't. So I think what we need to do is basically separate this out like we did in, what was it? Text, right? That's why text isn't showing up as an error, I believe. And we just put it in binding 0 and 1. So if we come over here, we just need to change this to be this. So we have our textures and our texture sampler. And then when we look it up, when we actually do the sample, we use the texture function like we do, but we actually kind of create a sampler object out of it. So we create a sampler 2D from that specific texture and the texture sampler like that. And then we'd have to do the same thing for oh, it's happening for Render 2D text as well. Huh. It makes sense why it's happening here, but I thought it would. So set 0 binding 1 is type sampler. Oh, yes, that's fine. That's because we haven't declared samplers yet. Oh, yeah, that's fine. So we just need to transition this to that. Hopefully that will compile. Let's just make sure that shader compiles by running Hazel. And that should be done. I'm assuming that compiled. Okay, so now we can take a look at, actually we can take a look at the text one, because this is saying that we have a sampler in binding 1, but it's not declared in the pipeline layout. So for whatever reason, when we create our pipeline, samplers specifically are not getting picked up when we get the descriptor set layouts from here. So that gets generated most likely by the shader compiler, but we should still see it being set here. So we have the reflection data, which I'm imagining doesn't have, so it's got image samplers actually, but that I think it's just gonna have separate samplers now. So we do actually support them here though. So this is already different to what I thought, but I guess we're supposed to go through them. So wouldn't they be in separate samplers over here? Storage images, separate samplers. So we should be getting this, I imagine, right? So if we have a look at what that actually is. Yeah, so I think we should be hitting this. Let's just make sure we are. Because that is a bit strange. Oh, we're not. Let's go to debug and we'll take a deeper look at this. Are you manually specifying the binding slot offsets with Vulkan binding offsets, or are you using defaults? You mean the NVIDI thing that we were talking about last time? I'm kind of not offsetting them at all anymore. And I'm going to see what happens when we go to DirectX. Because it's a little bit confusing, the whole offsets. I just don't think we need to offset it at all, to be completely honest. Because I think that if we write our shaders in HLSL eventually, then we can actually specify offsets ourselves. As in we can specify Vulkan specific thing. Anyway, I don't know. We're just gonna leave it without offsets for now. And then when we run into a problem with DirectX, then we'll cross that bridge when we get there, because I don't like the way that it works in Vulkan at the moment. And we're still kind of, Vulkan is still kind of primary. So yeah, okay, let's launch this. And I guess I specifically want to take a look at, yeah, it's either Renderer 2D or Renderer 2D text. Those two ones that use textures. So now we are officially working on the textured Render 2D render passes, which is pretty exciting. What? That didn't hit at all. Huh. I mean, I did switch, yeah, because I set dimension to 0, which is fine. So what's going on here? Let's make sure that that's running, I guess. Oh, what am I doing? Cache, shader. Just want to get rid of, for example, this. So it should recompile it. You think that it's SPURV that needs the offsets? Well, yeah, but we've never used offsets before. So what we do no, it doesn't make sense, I think, what you're saying, because if we have a look at for example, well, if you have a look at this, right? So what we can do is this. We can specify, you know, slot 0, S0 for sampler, T0 for texture, right? For DirectX. But then for Vulkan, we can have a binding like this, and we can set whatever we like here. And the point is that in Vulkan, this is what gets picked up, and in DirectX and for DirectX runtimes, this is what gets picked up. So therefore, you have both. And yes, you have to declare both, but ultimately, it doesn't matter what they are. Like this can be 128, this can be 1, as long as they're different. Because the reflection data is what you're going to use, and you're going to address these by name, not by binding point ever in the actual engine code. So therefore, it just as long as you give it a unique register and a unique binding point, that's all that matters. And none of these offsets need to work, basically. So, because the engine internally will know what the binding point is, and as long as it knows, you're good. Okay, so what? That didn't get picked up. Bro, what is going on? How do we not have separate samplers for that? That's really, really weird. Let me, I guess I'll just, this is probably not necessary, but I'm gonna put a breakpoint outside of the for loop, and I don't understand why this isn't getting picked up though. Because this should. Am I in the right place? It's gotta be this. Look, it's open. What? Okay, this is cooked. Wait, what? I don't understand this. Let's also enable maybe trace. This is very strange. Ugh, too much. Wait, are we getting... Oh, man. We're getting validation errors now. It was filtered in the log. What? Are you for real? Where's the debug callback? It did HZ core warn tag renderer. Oh, that's so annoying. It does a warn tag, like it does a warning, not an error, and therefore we were filtering out with our log. Oh, that is so annoying. That's why we aren't. So now we're actually getting validation errors. That's amazing. And by amazing, I mean not amazing. Okay, so now we don't need this open. To inject some extra ones. But yeah, we did set it to trace. Was that an info though? Maybe info's enough. Nah. Maybe this should all be info. Because trace I feel like is too much. And it's nice to see like what these are. Yeah, I might change this to info. And I want to do it for the selection, which will be this reflection function. And that way I can go back to info. Well, no. I have been using validation layers, it's just that my logging was filtering the log messages. So that's the annoying thing. I guess if I put a breakpoint in there, it actually would have worked. It just doesn't print. Okay, so this is what I was looking for. So what's going on with... It'd be good if it told me the shader. It doesn't tell me the shader. Why doesn't it tell me the shader? Does it know the shader? It should know the shader. render2.string or something. So I want to find that render2D thing and just see. So I guess it doesn't report any separate samplers or whatever, which is a bit strange. So there's I'm GUI. And then where's what I'm looking for? There's a lot of shaders here. And I think this does reflection per stage as well. I'm like, where's renderer2D? There it is. So renderer2D says, oh look, separate sampler. So we have a texture obviously, and we have a separate sampler at 0, 1. So why? Whoa, that is a lot of. My camera's out of focus. That's weird. That doesn't happen often. Okay, so that doesn't make sense, right? Because didn't I put a breakpoint in? Look. I mean, it printed them even. So these breakpoints just are not getting hit. Awesome. We must be in like some mixed debugging mode again. Yep. That's super annoying. So I guess it goes through this every time. Or does it? Isn't it supposed to only go through this? I mean, it's printing something, right? So it's supposed to only go through this, I thought, when it's. Well, my breakpoints still aren't getting hit, but it's supposed to. I might have to set it on Hazelnut, but I thought it was set. Yeah, it's to mixed again. Why? I thought it went through this only when it was compiling, but apparently it goes through this all the time. But that's still a bit weird because. Oh, because shader packs are different. I was going to say, because we don't have the shader compiler in the runtime. Okay, so the dimension is 0, which is, I think, correct. And we do actually have a... So what are we ultimately doing? Into reflection data, we're pushing in an image sampler into separate samplers. Yeah, so we've got that, which should mean that in Vulkan shader, we should be here. Oh, it's not image samplers. Yeah, that's fine actually. It's in separate samplers, right? Which is this, which I do have a breakpoint for. So do we hit that? Yes, we do. And what's the dimension? 0. So we do set the input type here to that. We create a binding layout item, which is a sampler. And we push that into the layout description. Huh. So that should mean that, shouldn't that mean that in the pipeline, get all descriptor set layouts? So have we actually, that's different to this though, right? Yeah, so it's supposed to go through and, oh no, binding layout item. Yeah, and then it creates a binding layout with a description, which should have 3 bindings, one of which is a sampler. It does say S128 for some reason. Oh yeah, because it's doing its offset. That's why, guys. I think I know why. It's because we're still doing the offset. So I forgot, we're doing an offset for, like, basically we should be setting these all to 0. I'm just going to do that explicitly in NVRHI, but you can use these const expert functions, and we're going to go back to the GUI HLSL shader, and I think this can actually still remain at 128, probably. But ultimately, I think we can just set it to 1. Or like set that to 0 and set this to 1. Doesn't matter. I guess I'll have the texture here. I'm just gonna call it my thing. And there you go. I don't know. That should maybe work. I'm gonna have to recompile like everything now though, because I modified that header file. So I'm interested in whether or not this will work, because the 128 did work. So if we have, yeah, so we'll see if this works. But at the very least, I believe that should maybe fix our problem. But we'll see. Okay, that's done. Let's try and launch that. Yeah, offsets are annoying. Oh. Alright, well that didn't work. What happened there? So we changed it from 128 to something, but it should have still come in as VK binding. So the I'm GUI shader wasn't, oh, maybe the I'm GUI shader didn't compile. Maybe that's what happened. Is that possible? I think if a shader doesn't compile, it should just tell us that. But it kind of looked like it may have compiled. It's just, even if the sampler was wrong, it probably wouldn't have just given us the clear color. So... where does this get called from? Here it is. I don't know if I wanna... I guess we're in debug. Maybe we'll hit this. It's weird though. I can't see any red, so maybe it did compile. I guess it did compile. Odd. I don't know why we're not getting anything anymore. I mean, I assume the sampler... Okay, well, at this point, let's do a debug build, which will take a while, unfortunately. And then let's run it through RenderDoc. I just want to see what it thinks the binding points are. How does Visual Assist compare to ReSharper? I haven't tried ReSharper in a while, but I've kind of just been using Visual Assist for like 10 years, literally 10 years actually. 2015 is when I started. So, yeah. I don't know. I tried ReSharper like 5 years ago and I wasn't really, text was blurry, like it was slow. It actually had graphical, I don't know. I made like a Twitter thread about it. I was like, here's my experience using ReSharper for the day. So I wasn't a big fan back then, but I haven't tried it lately. So I don't know. It's probably fine. Like they're both probably fine. It's just Visual Assist has always been really fast. And like back when I worked at EA and we had giant code bases, it's, ReSharper is still the same as you said. That's funny. We had giant code bases, and Visual Assist was like fast. Like it worked really well on those giant code bases. But for small projects, I'm sure it probably doesn't matter too much. Okay, so let's see what the heck's going on. Wait, did it open? What happened here? Why is it just nothing? Okay, I can see stuff now. Yeah, great. So for one of these draw calls then, what does it think is bound? So the texture is just not bound. Oh. But also, maybe we should rewrite this in GLSL. That's what I did last time, didn't I? Wait, are we still using this? Yeah, we surely are. Wait. Maybe I did rewrite the shader in GLSL, therefore this isn't used. Hold your horses. Because I remember I rewrote it in GLSL. So which one am I using? I'm GUI. Oh, I think I'm using GLSL. That's probably what happened. Maybe. No, I'm using HLSL. Huh. Yeah, this was the GLSL version. But then why is it not even showing up as two separate things? Okay, so now this is what we need to do. It's actually the first thing I think that we're loading, right? It's the first shader that we're loading. So because of that, that means that we can debug it easier. So let's do this. Let's just make an adjustment to the shader so it recompiles it. And then we're gonna go to, I guess I wanna see like the shader when it wants to create this. I wanna see what binding layouts it ends up with. So it should be this should be the right one, right? So we've got 3, yeah, sure, push constants, then we've got the texture and then the sampler. So you can see the sampler's kind of in S1 for some reason, but that's, yeah, but that's, I think that's fine. I think it's just slot 1, and so the NatViz formats it that way because it's made for DirectX. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is it's in slot 1 and this is in slot 0. So this is actually correct. But what's weird is RenderDoc doesn't even acknowledge that there's a sampler. So if we go into pipeline, we're gonna get all descriptor set layouts, which should get us this. So this actually should be legit. Like as in, the binding layouts we get here, which is going to be hard to see because we don't create the pipelines in order, they should be fine. Right? Why can I not F10 this? That's weird. This is probably some other shader. I guess we can have a look at, this will probably be the scene renderer. So, oh, this is renderer 2D. Oh, perfect. But why there 2? Shouldn't there be 3? Oh, it was the I'm GUI one that we were looking at, actually. Oops. Oh, hang on. We're not doing that here though. So maybe this should be 1. I'm sure it probably should be. And that's why I was doing the offset. Yeah, this should be 1. I forgot. We need to update this to go through our pipeline code so it's all automatic. Because we don't have to, we can lay out this stuff manually as you can see, but we don't have to. So I think that's the issue. So let's just try 1 here. And then maybe this will work now. Right on, Dev, you're welcome. Glad you enjoyed it. Let's see if this works. No. Shocking. I expected that to work. Huh. Why would that not work? That really should have worked. That's very strange. Because it made sense, because this used to be, remember this used to be 128, and then this used to be 0, but it got offset by 128. So therefore it was 128. And that's why it matched here. So now these actually should match because the offset's 0. So it's a bit weird. Like, so this register offset here should be, we're not going to see it in a release. Check RenderDoc now. Yeah, I will check RenderDoc in a minute. It's weird that it doesn't even come up with a sampler though. And this just has a single sampler in slot 0. That's also weird. Because there should be 2 distinct things in the pipeline now. Yeah, so register offset is 0. Binding slot is 0 for... Oh, there's another one. Get binding set. Ugh, I forgot. Oh, yeah. Sorry, because this is the actual item that you're binding. So I'm binding the font sampler to slot 1. But this is the layout of the bindings. So I had to do both. I forgot. And again, wouldn't be an issue if we transitioned this to Hazel's API. So we really should have done that. So now this should work. So I was probably correct. I mean, it's too early to say because it's still loading, but hopefully this will be correct and therefore I can be like, huh, I was right. Or I might be like, I was wrong. Ha, I was right. Okay, cool. So yeah, so that's good. We still got a... Oh, I thought we'd get a device loss, but it's actually loading the scene. Okay, there we go. Right. We've got our bounding boxes, hopefully. Yeah, nice. We're in debug, though. We're in a debug build, so everything's very slow and depressing. Let's go back to release. Cool. So what does that mean? That means that... Oh, yeah. So we should have maybe gotten the other stuff to work better now. But we can probably go through here and just... so let's maybe scale back the renderer. Where is Sandbox? Here it is. We'll scale back the renderer to warn. So that should show us Vulkan validation warnings. And if we have a look at that Vulkan debug callback, which is what, this, I think. Just put a break. If we put a breakpoint here, it's too late. But if we put a breakpoint here, we can start actually dealing with the validation warnings, such as this one, which is happening in the texture cube for whatever reason. So what's wrong with you? I guess we'll print the message. Oh, array layers is less than 6. Yeah, okay, that's not good. I think we just have to make the array layers. Like as in, where is this here? Texture description probably has array size, so 6, it's a cube map. Is your dream to make an indie level engine or AAA? Indie level. I'm not trying to make a AAA engine. I retired from the AAA industry. I'm done with that life. Okay, what do we have? Create compute pipelines. So that descriptor is not declared in the pipeline layout, and it's also a combined image sampler. Okay, we're probably not going to care about the compute pipelines just yet. I mean, we could maybe fix that. Oh, I just haven't done binding layouts, apparently. That's odd. Why? Isn't this really easy though? That's odd. I mean, maybe it didn't exist at the time, but yeah, all we have to do is basically be like binding layouts equals m shader get, or get, what is it? as. This is annoying, this part. Because we should remove Vulkan shader because it's not Vulkan specific anymore, but get all descriptor set layouts. That's as simple as it is. I think as long as the shader stages though, that this gets applied for, they need to be correct. So yeah, so visibility wise, you can see the shader descriptor set's visibility is vertex and pixel specifically, but it probably should be where it's used, right? Yeah, I mean, I imagine so. So where is this? Like, I've got a huge block here. Create descriptors. So when it goes through these descriptors, it probably knows where they are, right? Shader descriptor set. So let's put a breakpoint here. I'm in release mode, so we'll see. All right, shader descriptor set. So yeah, does this know? No. Oh yeah, shader stage. Oh yeah, okay. So basically this is what needs to happen, I think. But that's for all of the... Yeah, so this is what we need to do, I'm guessing. We set the visibility to none. And then I think it's just as simple as if, well, let's do this. We'll do binding layout description dot visibility or equals. So we'll do a little bit or, and we'll add in whatever one we need. So, and then here we need to do like, because it's going to be, where's it coming from? Uniform buffer dot shader stage. So shader stage is this. I don't even know if we need this. Maybe we can just use the NVIDI shader stages. Because this is a shader type, right? Yeah, like why do we need to use... Let's do that maybe. Or do we still want to keep it Hazel specific? It's just if I get rid of this, a lot of things, as you can see, relies on that. Okay, we'll keep it for now. We might get rid of it later. I think shader type. And then we'll do shader stage. Only got 3 here that we actually seem to support. And then we'll just do shader type vertex. And it's good that they're actually a bit flags things, so you can OR them together, of course. Okay, so that looks good. So that just means that we can, when we iterate through this stuff, we can just do, is that in utils probably? Utils, NVRHI. What? Where was that? Shader pack. Oh, wow. Wait, what? Okay, there has to be another version of this somewhere. What? Apparently there's not. Why is it in shader pack.cpp? This doesn't make any sense. How are we using it here? What? What was it? Uniform buffer. Uniform buffer. Oh, it's already NVRHI shader stage. Good work, Cherno. Good work. Yes, this is just for serialization, I think, into a shader pack. So goodbye that function that I just wasted time writing. And apparently we can just do oracles. I probably should have been like, it works. But then again, it's because it's yeah, because shader stage is not this. It's this, which is an enum class. Okay, cool. Whatever. So this is what we do. We basically just make sure that whatever shader stage this is in, it is included in this, I guess. I'll just add this everywhere. And the reason we're doing this is because it will mean that our compute shaders are now able to like have descriptors or whatever. Cool. Yeah, so now if we look at pipeline compute and let's do it in debug and we have a look at what binding layouts we actually pull out of there, whatever we pull out of there should now have the compute flag on it. Do you use a custom RHI or NVIDI? So we use NVRHI. We've just switched to NVRHI. It used to be custom. But I'm still, yeah, this is what this project is at the moment, switching to NVRHI. But we still have like shader, we still have Hazel's renderer API on top of that. Okay, so, yeah, so we no longer get that. It's weird that it didn't break, though, here. Because it's deferred, maybe? I don't know, actually, that's weird. And we're still doing this. Why are we still doing this on this thread? Let's, weird. Let's just create the pipeline here. We'll see. Debug build time is slow? Do you mean build time or launch time? Run time is slow. Build time is fine. Depends what you change. But it's, you know, it's... I wouldn't say it's too slow. Alright, so binding layouts. So visibility none and visibility all is a bit weird. Oh, but this has no bindings, that's why. But why are these set to all? Are they specifically... Huh. Yeah, I don't know why they're set to all. But, okay. Was all the default? No, none's the default. Okay, whatever. Something must be setting them to all. I think it's probably in the shader compiler or something. Yeah, shader stage all. Why is this still a thing? This is weird. That's because of OpenGL and their global buffer binding ridiculousness. Okay, I'm gonna leave this as is. Okay, so we've got, what do we have here? We really should do an extra new line after this, I think. Probably. Wait, didn't I switch that to 1? Yeah, 1. That's a bit weird. Oh, maybe that happens before it loads the project? Maybe. Okay, so create compute pipeline still does... yeah, okay, so this is the depth map being not a combined image sampler or whatever. Like, as in, it's supposed to be that. That's fine, I think, for now, I guess. Yeah, I don't really care too much about compute stuff, so I might just... Okay, here's something different. So push constant range of stage flags is 0. Again, for compute. Yeah, well, actually, it should be in the binding layout. Is it this? Binding is 1, push constants, but the visibility is 0. So, that's odd. Push constant buffers. Yeah, we really should probably set the visibility here. Now, we don't set it, like, I think what we do is, yeah, so here's a push constant range, right? And then inside there, we have a shader stage. And I don't think that's just, I don't think it's getting set. So, we should set it. So we should be like, shader stage, and then we should set it to, I mean, these are set it to all, which isn't great, but we should probably know, it'd probably be in the resource actually. I don't know how to get that. Well, oh wait, we do set it up here. Where do we get shader stage from? How is it? That's impossible for it to be none. What? Ah, whoops. Okay, let's put a breakpoint here. Can't be none. Come on. Unless something else isn't setting it, which is possible. But like the stage here is not ever none, I don't think. So therefore, yeah, I mean, this is set to vertex, compute, pixel, vertex, pixel. Yeah, why would this be none? Okay. Don't think it's ever none. But it is there. Let me just make sure that, because the other thing is that's probably more likely is that I must not have, oh, because it's here. That's why, my bad. So when we do this, then we push back, we push in a push constant. We need to basically do this. And I just forgot about that. Okay, so we'll skip this pipeline compute stuff for now. Okay, cool. So we got, well, something, our renderer saying that input camera is not found for the scene composite thing, which is bad, but also, oh, right, duplicate message limit value. Okay, and that's the create compute pipelines, right? Yeah, that's fine. I don't care about that anymore. Okay, here's something interesting. So, what's this? Create graphics pipelines, vertex attribute at location 1 not consumed by vertex shader. Okay, that's probably a warning, right? I don't think that's an error. But we can have a look at, well, yeah. So that'll be for what shader? I think that's probably okay, to be honest. That is for the directional shadow map. So it doesn't use, well, yeah, it's not going to use any of these really. We still declare them, but that's more because of the buffer layout, not the need for consumption. So I don't know, maybe we can get rid of them, but I think we'll still get that warning. That's probably an example of something we can avoid. because I think we're going to get a lot of those. All right, let's just let it run for now. There was some layout stuff. I did notice some layout things. And there's some semaphore issue. Swap chain image 0 was presented but was not reacquired. Whoa. That's bad. You know what? That's probably what's going to cause that device lost or device removed situation. Okay. Anyway, let's try and render something with a texture, like text or whatever, in our viewport, because that'll be exciting. So render a 2D. Let's try to do quads, I guess. They have images, such as icons. So let's move this and we'll do text in a minute. And also we're setting arrays. Oh, and it's on a material. So I don't know how this is going to work. It's probably not. But quads. Because the thing is, so how does this material stuff work? I guess it should maybe. It's just I need to make sure render geometry binds the materials descriptor set. So this will go, oh, okay, set does nothing at the moment, right? I don't know why it does nothing. I mean, does it have a descriptor? Oh, it doesn't yet. Okay. So this descriptor set manager, it should have one of these basically. Unfortunately, that seems to somehow indirectly include material. Can we just have that be a reference counter object, maybe? It's a little bit annoying to do that, though. Okay, let's just make it a unique pointer for now. It's really annoying, though. Why does my camera keep losing focus? Weird. It's usually not like this. It's usually better behaved. I forget why I can't just include that here. But I'm guessing this is not gonna work. Yeah. But I forget why. Like, I forget what was doing it. Like, what else, you know, how it was being included by. Because it's a recursive include. But why? Because something here includes material somehow? Why? Why would anything here include material? I could log the includes, but I don't really want to get that deep. Yeah, it's very weird, actually. I guess I should log this. I gotta Google how to do this. Oh, that's right, yeah. Okay, so let's try this. We'll try to show includes. Actually, I should go to here, shouldn't I? I should figure out what's including material. Because something here must be including material, I imagine. Yeah, it's material asset. Mesh. Vulkan.h. Wrong one. That is it. Because Vulkan.h includes renderer. And render includes mesh. And mesh includes materials. That makes sense. But yeah, I guess Vulkan.h including renderer is kind of annoying. Does it really need to? Yeah, because this does not need to be implemented here. Okay, better. That shouldn't include material anymore. And then we should be fine to compile now. Almost. Well, yeah, we need renderer. That's fine. Cool, we did it. And that's how you fix that. So yeah, so we should be able to just do like descriptor set manager dot set input name and texture. For example, name texture array index, name texture, name image. Yeah, I guess. But yeah, so this is what we used to do actually. So we actually had a spec for it, right? So this, I guess, needs to exist. And then we also had this thing where we bake it and we do all of this. So I guess this needs to still happen. And this is just, I think, just render input type or something. Now, yeah, because these are actual textures, not samplers, so therefore that's probably correct. We could also provide a default sampler. So I guess we could do, if it's just image sampler, then why don't we get clamp sampler or something. Maybe we want a different default sampler, and we need to make it take in that. Okay, I'm just gonna go say goodnight. I will be right back. Yeah, we don't have samplers, I guess. So what is this though? Ah, it's a sampler handle. Okay, sure. Just directly a sampler handle. I mean, yeah, I guess we don't need an abstraction over samplers, or at least we don't have one at the moment. But that means that for the descriptor set manager, which I really should rename, I guess we can just have. This is a bit weird, but it'll be an NVRHI. Oh, don't we have a sampler class? I guess we really don't. So this will be a sampler. Oh, but this has to be a reference counter object in the way that it's set up. Ugh. Okay. That's okay. I guess we probably should have a sampler, you know. Class. We have an image view. So under here, I will make a sampler. Which I'm honestly not going to put any effort into this. We will just wrap it in... or should I? Okay, I guess we'll make it a bit more permanent. Might as well. We'll save work in the future, potentially. So... let's just take in a sampler specification. Don't think we need that. That really should just be get handle, I think. Get Descriptor info, because that's kind of what I'm doing anyway, right? I mean, it returned to this, but... because this is just a void pointer anyway. Yeah, we should rethink that design slightly, I think. But for now, I'll just give it handle, probably, if we can cast it into that normally. Because what is this again? Oh, this is a ref counter pointer. I guess we can do get. Oh, there is no handle. That's why it's upset. I guess you can do all filters and all address modes actually via this way, which is better. Do we have any conversion? We don't have image utils or anything. Because we need to convert, what do we do for the rest of the thing? Do we do conversions here anywhere, and utils is integer based depth formats? Like this, for example. Where's that in? Oh, we have a utils here. Okay, sure. Do we even have Hazel ones? You know, yeah, do we? I just don't. I don't feel like we didn't do any of this. And I don't know if I want to repeat this. Let's just do this for now. We'll just do this. That should be basically it. Like, bias is probably also not bad. Just lets you skew which MIP is used for sampling. Okay. And then once we have that, we need to get the device and ultimately do this. And that's it. So we should now have a sampler basically that we can set. So we'll make this happen in a minute. And then for Descriptor Set Manager, we'll have a ref sampler that we set like so. Set input. So the cool thing is we can just leave samplers blank and it will, the default one will be set. So therefore it's like, you don't have to set it yourself. Like we'll do that for you. Which is kind of nice. Yeah, that's fine, I guess. And then we have to make sure this works. Alright, because it just gets... How did that work for? Oh, because it gives you that. Yeah, okay, I guess we can do this. And then that way it'll give you back a sampler. And then you can just do get handle. There you go. Cool. I guess. Why does my camera keep going out of focus? This is so weird. This never happens. Really weird. Oops. I don't know. I don't have touch focus on or anything. It's very weird. Oh well. Hopefully, I need to clean it a bit. Yeah, I don't know about this, but whatever. That's the main part, and then probably need to handle whatever this is. What's wrong with this? All right. Okay, how's this? So, okay, that didn't quite work. So back in here, when we try and get the clamp sampler and whatever else, so these now have to actually be ref sampler. And so we, yeah, just basically address mode is this. Everything else is true, and that's it. It's actually a little bit simpler. And then here we just do that. The only difference here, oh well, it's still, oh, it's just false and it's still clamped to edge. So basically the difference is that, what's this actually set to by default? I think it probably should be like clamp or something. Clamp and clamp to edge are probably the same. Yeah. We can just call this do something like that. Actually, maybe reduce it to this even. And then do that. Because that'll be the default. And then here the only thing that changes is this has to be like nearest or point. Oh, sorry, not this. So yeah, this is still actually normal, but it's just the min and minification, magnification, and MIP filters are all going to be false instead of true. And that's the sampler point, and that's the sampler clamp. And that's it. So now this should work fine. And we can actually probably just do get default sampler in case that ever changes. Because this is just us setting a default. So because this gets set on the material and probably will on the render pass as well. Although It's weird that we're setting it on the material manually because I'm pretty sure that it should... The descriptor set manager actually should do that itself, right? Yeah, it is. So I actually don't think we need this. So we'll investigate that. And then over here, we will just, well, I guess it can be an array. It's a bit dodgy because this is a sampler, these are textures just because they're dimensional. I don't really know. But anyway, either way, we shouldn't need this because this happens. Okay. Now that we've done that, let's just try and do a build over everything. And then basically the whole point of this is just to go back to render a 2D and see whether or not, now that we have materials kind of seemingly maybe working, whether or not this will work. But again, the bulk of this code is what we did a few streams ago, which was this whole descriptor set manager situation. That was the large bulk of all the code. Even though, yeah, that, and again, it wasn't like redesigning it, just porting it. And I don't know, I think it's a decent system. I just think it needs, the big feature that I think it's missing is this distinction of like dynamic, which we talked about when we were going over this, but the distinction of whether or not resources are dynamic or static. So like whether or not a resource is going to change internally without you changing it explicitly. So that can happen when a frame buffer, like if you have a render target as an input into a material, for example, that render target might be the screen and that might resize, and therefore the frame buffer resizes it, completely destroys and recreates the texture again, which obviously then means that you need to kind of recreate that descriptor set basically with the new image. And that's not usually, like, you're not told about that, it just happens, meaning that the descriptor set manager has to react to it and it has to check everything. So that would be an example of a dynamic resource, but for many things like meshes, everything is static, so therefore we don't have to check over everything, and therefore we could save time. So that's why. Okay, so this is upset because I just don't think we're including NVRHI. So I think we do like this because it's inside the repository. Okay, we actually do need both, I think. Oh, because that was HPP. Uh-oh. IntelliSense operation reached the memory limit. I guess of IntelliSense, because I've got like 128 gig. How much am I using? Not that much, 45. I mean, this is a decent amount, but I'm not even streaming on this PC either. Not that I think streaming would use that much in this context. All right, so let's try and build and run this. Hang on, I messed up. this thing doesn't return. Let's write this in a different way so that we only have one return point. So we'll create the sample if it doesn't exist, and then return it no matter what. So this just simplifies it a little bit. So we don't have to have two return statements. What's the distinction between H and HPP? Usually C and C++, but .h is very commonly used for CPP as well, for C++. It's just that with Vulkan specifically, which is what I was including here, Vulkan has a header that's HPP that's the C++ version. So it's like a different API they've written for C++, which is optional. We use it sometimes and we don't in other times. It's a bit inconsistent. Hey, this worked. So, oh, hang on. So this is kind of exciting if it works. We're in debug, that's why it's so slow. Because, I mean, I don't really see it working, but we should be seeing quads, maybe? Like, is this rendering anything? Apparently. How many verts are we rendering? 6 into, yeah, so that's definitely drawing a quad, apparently. With a texture, it seems. So texture slots. So we've got a couple textures here. Right. Now that should have the camera and everything. I just don't know where it's drawing it, you know? Oh, well, if we enable our bounding boxes, we might be able to. Yeah, I don't actually see any quads being rendered anywhere. But like, yeah, because I should be seeing like lights maybe. Or if I create a point light. No, I got excited for a second. Yeah, I don't see the icon for the point light. So because we have show icons on, I probably should see the icon for the point light, and probably for other things as well, which I'm like the camera actually has an icon as well, come to think of it. But I don't see that. So therefore it's not working, which is okay because we can debug it. Let's just do a release build and then we'll do that through RenderDoc. Check it out through RenderDoc and see what's up. But in the meantime, I just want to see like what's going on. Yeah, we have some swap chain issues, it seems, for some reason. So we'll have to also explore that probably. This is renderer 2D, yep. Render 2D quad. So we still got that camera, we got the quad pass, vertex buffers. And we got the same camera input as we did, I think, before, so... does that differ from line at all? Set 1 binding 0, no, not really. Okay. I mean, we are sampling a texture. So one thing I could do is I could also just give it a solid color. So we can see, I guess that's maybe what I'll do. So let's give it a solid color instead. So we can do that, but whatever. Let's just do vec4. We'll do blue 0, 0, 1, 1, just because we have a red background, so that'll be a nice contrast. Green also works. Let's do green. I like green more than blue, I think. Okay, so let's run this. It should recompile our shader, and then we'll see if we see anything. Okay, well, yeah, so it does work. I don't know what that is, but it's something. Guys, check out my 3D game engine. Am I right? Look at it. Oh, so cool. Yeah. Okay, so that's what the camera. Yeah, that's the camera, I guess, because it's near the player. But yeah, if I create like a point light or whatever, then you can see that it's also got its own thing. So yeah, so that's obviously fine. So it's more the textures that don't seem to be working for some reason. So let's try it through RenderDoc. Yeah, so now we know that we should see it. We should just be able to capture a frame or not. I don't know if that worked or not. No, that's our old frame. It crashed as soon as we tried capturing a frame. Which we will fix at some point. I'm not too worried about that, to be honest. I'd rather work on fun things, right? Who wouldn't? Oh, except I can't. Every time I capture a frame now. Oh, is it really going to force us? Is it really going to force us to fix the issue? Okay, maybe. Maybe. Yeah, this is very bad now. This is happening all the time. All right, fine. I guess we'll fix the issue. I don't know what it is though. Okay, yeah, it's happening a lot. It's happening. I mean, I'm sure it's that stuff. Okay. Yeah, I kind of copied and pasted a lot of this in from Donut. It's a bit weird. But I also Frankensteined it with some of my own stuff, I think. Three attempts to acquire next image. It could also just be, yeah, like the... It could be the actual swap chain image transitions as well. Let's just go to when we actually try and obtain a frame. And then I'll put a breakpoint into our debug callback. And we'll see if we hit that. And we'll see what the problem is. Command to update buffer. That's okay. I mean, sure. Oh, because that's 0. Don't really care about that. So we don't get anything from there, it seems. Okay, commit barriers internal from synchronization seems to trigger something. So image layout, color attachment optimal is not compatible with VK image. Pre-depth opaque, again, that's unrelated. Usage flags, and it should be what? Color attachment internal. Oh. Depth attachment. Why are the usage flags set to all of this? I guess we just set it. Okay, that's irrelevant. Okay, here we go. Image memory bars, new layout. Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, so let's try and do that transition, I think, into something that we cannot be. And it's trying to be a color attachment optimal for the scene composite depth attachment. Why does it have all of these usage flags though? But I mean depth, well, yeah, I guess because it doesn't have. So we create this frame buffer and it's got a depth attachment. Transfer is marked as true. I mean, its usage is set to attachment though. So we just must not have something in image that works with attachments, I think. Apparently. But I thought we did. That's what render target is, isn't it? And you can see image usage is set to attachment. Depth attachment, attachment. That's very weird. Right? Oh, is render target. Well, yeah, if the usage is attachment, it's a render target. That's very weird. Very, very weird. So, big image usage. So if it's a render target and it has depth or stencil, it gets depth stencil attachment. Oh, color attachment. Hang on a minute. So depth attachment is trying to be transitioned to color attachment. Color attachment. Image layout color attachment. Why? Yeah, what's doing that? Because that is wrong. I misread that. Yeah, so this is all fine. Like, it's just apparently it's trying to what? Be attached as a color attachment. That doesn't really make sense, does it? Maybe that's... Yeah, what could be... Or is it this? Does render target add color attachment to it if you set the initial state? Because that could be it. But render target is render target, so that kind of makes sense. It should just make it a depth attachment or whatever rather than a color one, depending on if it's depth or whatever. So what was that? Create texture. And then fill texture info. Set initial layout. Is there an initial? Does image usage flags just fine? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what could... It might... Yeah, I don't know if it's this. Because, okay, so this will be in... state tracking, probably. Render target doesn't even come up here, though. Has depth, has stencil. So... Yeah, so here... Old layout, depth stencil attachment, new layout, color attachment. What the heck's doing this? I mean, close is doing it because it does commit barriers, and then it's going through and doing that. But it's got to come from somewhere. So here's like pre-depth or scene composite depth attachment. Permanent state unknown. State render target. We should be able to. We're in release mode, unfortunately, but yeah, we should have. It's probably one of the barriers before and after. Well, before is depth right, but it's just weird that after it's like. Should it be going back to depth right? Well, probably not, because it should be depth attachment optimal, right? Or, you know, depth stencil attachment bit. That's what it should be. That's not an image layout, though. That's a usage. Sad that this is happening, to be honest. I just don't know where it's coming from. It's a bit hard to track down why it reckons. I mean, we could do debug, I guess. Do a debug build and see what's up. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can think of is that it's trying to return it back to this state, but why? We probably have to put a breakpoint in that thing and see what the problem is. In a bit more of a detailed sense. Oh, that's right. I skipped this part by actually getting to the rendering stage, which I guess I can do again because I have begin frame, and then I can actually cache the stuff that happens during frames. So we got stuff like push constant ranges that are outside of the thing. Weirdly enough, and it's happening in uniform buffer set data. I don't know why. Okay. No, it's, yeah, data size stuff that I don't care about. Okay, here it is. So here's something. So we got pre-depth opaque depth attachment, which is basically it's trying to be set into new layout of color attachment. So if we have a look, maybe this will tell us why. Although it doesn't really want to. Weirdly enough. Oh, because we've already iterated through this. So let's go back up here, I guess, and see what happened. So before depth right and after color attach. So where did it get this from? Ah, render. So depth right. So it's probably supposed to be depth right. Render target. Yeah, so convert. I should have seen this. Convert resource state. There's this mapping. And I think the mapping. Where is the mapping? Resource state map. This thing. So if we look at render target, you can see, yeah, it's only ever going to be color attachment. So that's why that's wrong. So for it to be a depth stencil attachment, it has to be depth right. So that's basically what's wrong there. So if we go to image, we just need to make sure that if it's an attachment, we need to see whether or not it's a depth format, basically. So I think there's like a is depth format, and then this will be like specification dot format. I guess we can do a ternary operator for that. So we'll just do, if it's a depth format, then we'll do depth right. I just thought render target could be depth as well, but I guess not. I guess it specifically differentiates them by calling this depth right and this render target, which is fine. Okay, so hopefully that fixes that. And then, yeah, maybe we can get to some actual swap chain issues. I mean, ultimately, I'd like to get some textures rendering, but we'll see how we go, because it's getting late. Okay, so we're in here now. Okay, that fixed that problem. Okay. Yeah, now we've got a device removed. Damn. Error device lost. I wonder what's wrong with our swap chain. So this is what happened. Oh, okay. That's not good. Wow. I wonder what... it might be the asset thread loading stuff, actually. And there's all this signaling stuff as well. But how does it submit stuff? Or does it not? Did we get rid of that? Because this runs on a separate thread, so... I'm just wondering if it actually does loading. It would involve device like submission stuff, which we potentially used to lock or whatever, but we don't anymore. So that could be an issue as well, and therefore it's a race condition. And that's why it happens sometimes and doesn't always happen. Where's the actual thing that, so there's an asset loading queue. Try load data. Okay, All right, asset importer, try load data. So that will go through and actually do stuff. Because that will go through here, for example, and then if we find like, I mean, there's a billion of these, but if we find texture serializer, for example, try load data, then we do texture 2D create from that. Going out of focus again. What's going on, man? And then if we go to texture create, I guess. Doesn't that just go to the importer? The thing, it might have worked in the past because we used to submit it to the render command queue, but we don't anymore. So like, we just do create from file, and then we just try and create the image straight away, and we do invalidate, and then it tries to set the data, and that might be problematic if it's happening from... So it does image set data, go to the image class, which, yeah, device execute command list. So this needs to be thread safe. I guess it's probably that. I think everything else is fine. It's just the device execute command list. I'm surprised they don't have a thread safe way to deal with this. I mean, it could maybe use a different queue. But yeah, that's probably that. The semaphore stuff I'm not sure about, so it's still to do with queues and stuff though. Yeah, it must be this, I think. And therefore stuff's being signaled sporadically. Because the queue execute command list, I think will basically do device execute command lists, which I'm struggling to get to. Device wrap. I actually know where this happens. Execute command lists. Yeah, it does a queue submit here, and it might have its own semaphores and stuff. Or fences. Yeah, actually this makes sense, because I think like the other thing that's different is that Vulkan render command buffer. What the heck's this? Render command, oh right, yeah. Okay, so what used to happen here in submit, which I guess now no longer happens. Oh wait, this is old code. But also, yeah, we used to do device lock queue. That doesn't run anymore though, and instead we just kind of execute it straight away. And that's not, yeah, that's not good. So it's supposed to lock access to it probably, and therefore we would also hopefully flow through that code here. So in other words, instead of doing device create command list, maybe we would actually create one of these render command buffers. I mean, it is a little bulkier probably, which I'm a little bit not sure about. It also somewhat defers the work, which you might not want to for transfer operations, because it's like not within a frame. It's like it's an asset thing. So yeah, this gets complicated. So it's probably a good place to leave it for tonight. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Internal static void, got a job doing malware dev for Windows. Got any tips? Don't. Please don't develop malware. Yeah. All right. Anyway, I think, yeah, next time we're going to have to really lock down our queues and also think about how we synchronize things across threads, because I totally forgot that. Well, it's just the way that I ported it meant that we lost that functionality. But yeah, look, we're getting there. We're definitely getting there. I think we'll see some stuff next time. I think we'll see some exciting stuff next time. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to help support Hazel, then patreon.com/the Cherno, and you can get access obviously to everything we're doing here. Other than that, I'm posting live stream VODs to my Cherno Unplugged channel as well. So you can catch all of everything there. So yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time. Goodbye.